A few people have commented that the Nikon D500 doesn't have a pop-up flash, and there's a 50-50 debate on whether, hey, that's a great thing, or hey, that's a bad thing, and here's my opinion on it. Okay, what I would say is the pop-up flash, as a professional photographer, you're never going to use that for taking photos, for adding flash to an image. That's not cool. It doesn't. It's not a flashing light. It's never going to help you out in a tricky situation. It's just going to make things worse. Additionally, there's a potential of it going wrong, it breaking. It's another electrical thing that breaks. It uses up electricity. It's a flicky thing that pops up that has little cables and wires and electricity running through it that could all go wrong. And it's because it's on the top, rain could just seep into it, and it could just be a giant nightmare having a pop-up flash. And I understand that getting rid of the pop-up flash potentially makes the camera a little bit more weather sealed and has one less thing for it to potentially malfunction or go wrong or break, or if it bounces off the ground, another thing to shatter. So getting rid of it has potential benefits, but anybody who I know who got into photography and were attracted to Nikon, particularly because of its CLS, Creative Lighting System. I've done quite a few videos on this. I'll put a link to this one down below, where I went and spent painful amounts of money on Nikon flashes, specifically Nikon flashes, around about £300 per flash. Having the ability to use the pop-up flash on your camera as a commander, so what that did is it fired off a flash just before it took a photo to signal to the flashes around it, as I'm saying all in this video. If you want to watch this video, which I'm talking about it specifically, then that saved me potentially £300 by not having to have another dedicated flash on top of the camera body. And here in this video, I go into the descriptions of how to use the pop-up flash as a commander. So you can, the only problem is it can only use two different groups. So you could have an A group and a B group. So you could have a B for background flash and an A for action flash. And so on the back of your camera, you can stand in one place and go, I need to change the flash in the background, a stop, beep, 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 done, and the flash at the front, put it up, to stop, and within about 20 seconds, you can have changed the settings on the flashes just from your camera. There, as you can see, I'm saying there's only Group A and Group B. If you had a dedicated SB900 or SB800 or SB910 on top, you have the ability to do three groups: Group A, Group B, Group C. So there was an additional benefit of having an actual flash on top, but there was the massive additional cost of around about £300, which if your camera when you bought it was around about £1,000, that's 30% increase in price. And if you're wanting to do multiple off-camera flashes, you're thinking about spending about £1,000, maybe four flashes, Nikon dedicated flashes. What I would recommend, however, nowadays is you don't need to. Massively, you don't need to. In terms of Nikon branded flashes, the amount of amazing not unbranded, but third-party flashes that you can get, like the Yongnuo, I think that's how you pronounce it, is fantastic. Is just fan. I just cannot express how great it is. For 50 quid, a Yongnuo flash can be a commander and can work with the other flashes. It's just so good. But if you were somebody that got into it, having the pop-up flash on the Nikon D300, D700, D610, D750, D810, very beneficial if you're stuck in a situation, or if you're just kind of go, I'm trying to restrict the amount of weight in my rucksack. I need two flashes, one a key light, one a rim light, and instead of having to bring a third flash stick on top of your camera, you could use it all from you could control them all just from the pop-up flash on your camera. So that saves a lot of weight and potentially about £300. Additionally, the pop-up flash worked well outside. Here I'm using the pop-up flash to trigger off a flash outside in the daylight. So it wasn't the case of, hey, it's useless unless you're using it in a studio. I could use it outside in daylight from, that is a good 15-meter distance. if not more. Well, okay, there I'm proving it didn't work. So that's me doing a distance test. But it's something which I found was very, very beneficial. So the argument that some people are saying, for particularly on my Dunbar photography group just now, is from Scott. Hello, Scott. You've left quite a few comments here. He's saying the built-in flash had been a nightmare for professional photographers. I don't necessarily believe in that. Certainly for myself, I thought it was fantastic, not a nightmare. I don't know of anyone who had one go wrong either. Maybe I just don't know enough people who are now photographers who are rough on equipment and made their pro digital cameras the only choice. Now that they have put blah blah blah. Okay, what he's saying is that I was talking about hard professional use, as in falling down mountains. That's definitely going to be a bummer. Or getting drenched in rain. That's also a bummer. Or battered off concrete. Clocking up shutter counts in excess of 500,000. Okay, so in the flat, I don't know if the flash necessarily works going on there. What I have had is I've used my cameras out in the rain with the D300 and the D700 out in the pouring rain, and never. I wasn't. Obviously, you don't use the Popup Flash in rain outside. That would be a certain obvious thing not to use. Whenever I have used flash outside in possibly the snow, I've had just a plastic bag. In fact, all the time in my camera bag, I keep these. What are these? Tesco free contents bags. So these are little bags which you're putting stuff in the freezer. I just pop these over any flashes that I have, and instantly, wow, they're weatherproof if you have them on a stand. So yeah, those little plastic bags that you put your chicken breasts or whatever into your freezer, fantastic. Just stick them on top of your flash because they're see-through. It will still work as if you're using Commander and you're using the flashes off camera, even at a distance. So that's worked absolutely fine. What I would say in the argument against, hey, they've got rid of the pop-up flash, therefore making the camera a stronger build. The slight bummer is they've got the flippity flop screen at the back. How much weatherproofing they're able to do with what that effectively has is a wire, a big little cable snake going from that into the back of the camera, is something which makes me more nervous than a pop-up flash. When it's fully flicked out or fully flicked in, that's not a problem. It's the wire cable going into the camera. I'm sure it's probably totally weather sealed, but that would be something which I would be more nervous about rather than the pop-up flash in terms of dealing with it in bad weather. Certainly rain, dust and stuff, not a problem, but in rain I would be far more nervous taking a camera out which has a flippy floppy screen, unlike my Panasonic GH4. Hold on, I'll show you that. Unless, of course, this flippy out screen is connected in some different way, but the Panasonic GH4 that I've got is fantastic. I do not see any cables. It's fully articulating screen, and there's no cables at all. And this one has a pop-up flash. If I press... There it is. So this one's got a nice little solid pop-up flash. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's good. Clicky. But I don't use this as Commander mode. I haven't really figured that out in the Panasonic. I don't know if it even does that with any other cameras, but I can use it just as a simple slave to set off other cameras. But what I do think is what Panasonic, I think Canon has with these fully articulating screens, I see no wires, I see no cables, I see no kind of connector bits. That this one gives me far more confidence using in the rain. I'm happy to use this in the rain. It says it's weather protected. I believe everything is done there. And not having or not seeing kind of a wire cable going in, I find to be far more confidence inducing than the flippy out screen that you get here. So my advice would be if you're going to be getting a Nikon D500, unfortunately it doesn't have a pop-up flash, so therefore you can't use it as a Commander to be able to control other flashes. What I would recommend is not spending £300 on a Nikon SB900 or SB, the newest, latest ones and all that kind of stuff, but just, you can buy 4 Yongyos for 50 quid each and you will have the ability to create any sort of flash image you want with that. And if you take the time to read the manual and understand the hieroglyphics that are on the back of the Yongnuo Flash, then you can be an absolute master with flash photography. So yeah, so the conclusion of this video: buy Yongnuo flashes, and don't worry about the fact that this doesn't have a flash. It potentially makes it lighter, possibly more weather sealed. However, the flippy out screen at the back, I'm not 100% sure that that in any way aids in the weather sealing of this camera. Somebody also mentioned that this camera is only like magnesium alloy on, was it the top and the back? From what I've heard, is the reason why it does that, and the other bits are like carbon fiber reinforced plastic, whatever it is because it's got Wi-Fi and stuff in it, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I think for some reason magnesium alloy is anti-Wi-Fi. I may be totally wrong on that, but that's what I've heard. So if you're wondering why is it not totally magnesium all the way around, that's due to the electromagnetic spectrum stuff going on there. But yeah, so that's just my little thoughts. I'd be interested to see what you think about the fact that it's lost its pop-up flash, and if you are kind of like, bummer dude, that was so beneficial. And if you want to see my tips on using the CLS flash, I'll put the links to this down below. Cheers, bye bye.